Would you look at that? The Mockingbird kind of looks like a car again. Now, that's quite the change probably from last time you saw it, but I promise I haven't really done a whole lot. Bolting the doors on, bolting the fenders on, putting the hood on, laying things in place. I got it close. Probably good enough for factory spec, but we're going to dial these body panels in, get them a lot closer so to get better panel gaps and then get the best we can. Now, there's a few schools of thought on this. There's many different techniques, different styles. I'm going to show you how I do it, how I get it done, and the results we get when we're finished. Now, we know this is a reproduction quarter panel, a reproduction door. I love them. I really have not been, I guess, more impressed with this for replacement sheet metal on this stuff. Now, you buy the stuff you could get 25 years ago, that stuff was bad. This stuff is great. I know there's a lot of complaints and some people are discouraged with it, but I'm telling you, it really isn't that bad, all things considered. So I'm kind of sold on buying new doors at this point. Maybe I just got lucky, but so far I really like them. And the quarter panels, again, these were OER quarter panels, AMD doors, mismatched brand, and I'll show you the gaps. They look really nice, but we can do better, and that's what we're going to get into here today. All right, so let's take a look at where we're at so far. The door gap, man, that's actually pretty nice, clean, even, top, bottom. We're going to do our rocker panel gap down here between the rocker panel and the door. Looks good, even and parallel. And like I said, the front corner of the door lines up there with the front edge of the rocker panel. That seems to work best for me in dialing these things in. Then I put the fender on just loosely because there's a lot of adjustments to this fender. You've got, forward and backwards, up and down. You can actually move the top in and out a little bit. The biggest thing when it comes to putting these doors and fenders on, don't stress a whole lot yet, because I'm going to say, what's the next thing? Where do you begin? Well, let's just start right here. That quarter panel right there behind us. As you can see, it's nice and pretty and welded in. Unlike the door and the fender and the hood, these other panels, these have adjustability. That does not. So don't start here at the fender and the door and try to get the quarter panel to match. Never going to happen. So this is our start point. Quarter panel is a fixed thing. Work our way forward. Put that door on. Make it look as best you can. Don't spend a lot of time on it. Let me show you why. Throw the fender on, get it looking pretty good. The reason I say don't spend a lot of time, really, step 1.5 or 1.5 is you put that on, You need to set your fender to hood gap. What actually happens is you put this all together and you go to put your hood on and either you don't have any gap at all or the gap is way too wide. Well, to adjust that, there's a shim pack here right underneath this corner of the fender. You shim it up, more shims, brings the fender out, increases the gap. Take shims out, goes in, closes the gap. In this case here on this car, I threw the fenders on, the doors on. I normally use 3/16 inch of a shim. So basically a couple shims in here, 3/16 total. And that normally gives me a great starting point. Well, I did 3/16 on both sides and I couldn't even get the hood to shut. It was hitting on both sides here really bad. This is why we do a mock-up before doing any body work. Go ahead and put the whole car together so you can see it as an entire thing. While we're welding, we did the same thing. Keep an eye on gaps. But we're now down to the final touches. Now we're really going to dial these body panels in. That's why I'm going to get in here today, show you what I've done, how to get there. So I didn't show bolting a door on and a fender on. I feel that's kind of self-explanatory. Now getting it looking super clean and sharp, that becomes the trick, or maybe need a little bit of guidance or the do's and don'ts. That's what I'm going to show you today. But like I said, we've got the hood now. Where it opens and shuts. It's not because the reproduction hood, it was too wide, because look, my cowling, I go to both sides, it lines right up. So this reproduction hood actually is the same width as the factory. But the problem I run into is this door. I love it. Like I said, I'm just going to talk how great it is. It does fit nice. But the problem is I can't get it to just out far enough to match the fender now. If I shimmed it up here, this will not come out far enough. So either the problem is my reproduction hinges or the door. But either way, I've took the two, I only have 2 bolts in here. I've taken them loose. I have maxed out that adjustment. The bolts here on the hinge. This will move in and out normally quite a bit. I still have quite a bit of movement in, but I ran out of movement out. So we're going to need to modify. I feel it's a little easier just to modify the hinge. So we're going to basically elongate the holes to get the additional adjustment that we need. Then we can match that door to the fender, because you can see here, we get down straight, it actually has a bit of a step there. Now we're talking maybe a 1/16 of an inch, or it's not a whole heck of a lot. Actually, here, we'll do this. So what do we see? Well, that's the gap difference. So that's what we're going to try to fix. So that's how much we need to elongate that hinge to bring this out and get the fender to match our door. So that's what we're going to work on here. I'm going to pull that door off the car. and then I'll get that elongated to see if we got looking more gooder. I guess something else I want to kind of cover. I got a few things laid out. I got a paint stir stick. I'll show you why. I have the pry bar. That's going to be helpful. Some wrenches and sockets, 1/2 inch, 9/16 is going to be pretty popular. Got a straight edge for checking height. I mean, obviously I can see this and feel this, but this definitely really visualizes it for you guys to see what I'm up against. Miscellaneous bolts, tape measure. I've got a Dremel tool with a little microscopic burr bit on it. That's what I'm going to use to elongate the hole on those hinges. And I've got this little shim kit. I've burned up all these ones here, all the 1/8 inch shims, so I need to order some more. But as you can tell, I have an assortment of different thicknesses, the 16th, the 8th, and whatever. So it's nice to have an assortment of these to really dial these panels in. You can buy these things pretty cheap. I think on eBay, about $20 for a big kit. I think that's done 2.5 cars now, so it's done me good. And if things get real bad, I got the brick my orange do. Now I'll go ahead and remove the door. Now the easiest way to do is take the bolts out of the door that go this way into it. To get to the ones that go into the A-pillar of the door jamb, and not really easy. This point, obviously almost impossible or not practical. So just take all these bolts loose here, get this thing out of my way, and then we'll make some room. Now the advantage of this door being disassembled is not that heavy. But if you have a hand or someone to give you a hand to do this, not a bad idea. Alright, put this out of the way. Now the door is out of the way. I'll get you in and see what I'm up against. The door hinge itself really isn't meant to have a whole lot of adjustment. These holes are a little bigger than the bolt currently, so you do have I'd say, a little bit of wiggle room, but we need a little more out this way. So we need to go out. And I'd suggest identifying here with this, a marker, which is dried out. You can see the contrast, but we need about the width of the marker itself. So I want to make me a little guide here to burr that out. And we'll just kind of clean these holes up, make them a little bigger. And that should be now then enough adjustment to get my door to line up with my fender. Sometimes things work out pretty good. I happen to find my little bigger burr bit here at home. The idea is to elongate this hole. My Dremel I used on the other holes, but I happened to stumble upon this just a minute ago, and I forgot that I had it. So we're going to try it on the drill. Like I said, I got it marked. I'm going to try to just push the drill, or the bit this way, to elongate that hole and see how that works out. Besides being the most obnoxious sound in the world, that's actually working. So I got to do all 3 of them that way, but get it where it just touches that line. Well, that should do it. Now I need to put the door back up in place. We'll start our bolts and see if we get that thing to come out far enough. So I got the door kind of sort of back into place. Now it's not lined up probably whatsoever. Do a little practice shot here, and I actually accomplished to make that gap a whole heck of a lot worse. But now we have the advantage. I left the top 2 bolts a little bit loose. I should be able to pull this thing out, and actually quite a bit. Line it up a whole lot better. Now, let's see. That's how as far as it'll go, I think. Let's see how we're looking now. Now we're touching. I would say that's going to work, but what it doesn't work now is this gap here, way too wide. But we'll go ahead and snug up the bolts here on that hinge, and then we'll work on adjusting that fender to get it looking a little better. Yeah, it's out as far as it'll go now. So I guess we guessed about the right distance on that thing. Now, I would suggest putting more than just 1 bolt in each hinge, if not all of them, because it'll actually twist this door a little bit as you snug it up and totally mess up all your lines. And when it's all done, you'll have all the bolts in it anyway. So at least put 2 in each hinge, if not all of the bolts back in them. Now let's see what that did. Yeah, still our gap here is still kind of wide because I saw the door kind of pulled up a little bit. So I think next thing here, work on drawing this fender back and in just a little bit. That's going to be done by that shim pack here. I'm going to take that loose, not adjust the shims necessarily, but we're going to bring that fender back and see if we can close this gap up some. That's just a little wide for my likes. So I'm going to say, to close this gap up here, make sure this bolt is loose. Mine is loose. Then we're going to take the one loose here in the door jamb, and this has got a really cool antenna mounting hole, which is a great place to get a hold of, and pull this back and then close the gap just a little bit, and we'll snug that bolt back up. See about getting that thing to shut maybe about 1/16 of an inch or so. It's just a little wide, I said, for my likes. And I'll show you little tricks here to dial it in the rest of the way. And a lot of this is just kind of go by feel, see how much it wiggles and how much it moves. Again, we have the advantage of a nice antenna hole on this side to get a hold of. So take this loose and let's hope for the best. Oh yeah, that moved quite a bit. I've got my hand there in the fender well opening. Now we'll snug this bolt back up and see what it looks like. Oh. Okay, that's snug. Now, I know my head was probably in the way. That's better, but I think I can go just a little bit more to close that up. Now, this is probably good enough for factory gaps, but I like to go just a little bit further because this isn't painted yet, so we can work on it some to make it more gooder, you know? So I'm going to take that loose, give it one more tug, and see if I can get this to close up just a little bit. Oh, it really moved that time. Now this is, again, if you had someone give you a hand push on that front edge of that fender and push this thing back, probably work a whole lot better. Okay. It may just be that all I'm going to get out of that. It's not bad. I don't love it, but I'm also looking at the leading edge of this door. It's got a little bit of a defect there in the stamping, so they may have to actually just come through and weld a little bit on the edge of the door. Really do advanced alignment, but I think that's as good as that's going to get. But our body line now is nice and even. Our panels now, I'll show you here a better camera angle, but we're on the same plane now, so I'm digging that. That's pretty cool. I got a little bit of a low spot here, and that's what I'm going to show you what this here is for in the pry bar. Let me show you where we're at with this. I'm actually really liking that door gap. That's really nice, even, tight, all the way up through here. Now, the thing I do know about replacement doors and door skins, this peak isn't quite the same shape, unfortunately. It's not quite as tall. If you were to actually take a straight edge at this point here, the door and the skins complete are just a little bit short. So I typically, on this door, I'll take it back off. I'll take the hammer and work that point just a little bit taller. And that's one of the things I'd say is a downside of the repop stuff. But as I've done some more investigating here, this door, same thing, repop door. This here was just rolled back. It's not a nice straight line. You can almost see it kind of make a curve this way. So I'll have to add some metal to the leading edge of that door and really pull that gap in to match the rest of this. But I super love the rest of it. I'm digging that. That's cool. Now, I'm going to show you what I've got here, what that little piece of wood is for. All in all, if you run your hand down it, it's not too bad. Our gap is a whole lot better. It's really touching in some places, but even the leading edge of this door is actually kind of crowned in a little bit. So what I like to do, I'll take the piece of wood, then I'll take my pry bar. Those sharp edges of the square shape of the pry bar will actually ding the leading edge of the fender. Well, the wood here, you put this in place, and you watch here, I'll pry this door out just a little bit, work it top to bottom, and I'll get that really fine in here real nice, because right now our body line's really where it needs to be, so I don't want to pull the door out anymore or try to push the fender in, because I'm going to mess that up there. So we're going to just basically bend the leading edge of the door and the fender to match each other the rest of the way. Now you can get overzealous and overdo this, but just work this thing just a little bit at a time. I'm biting the edge of the door and pushing against the fender. So doing two things, I'm pulling the door out and slightly bending the fender in. You keep working the whole gap until you get it where you want it. Of course, you'll destroy a painted stir stick in no time, but that's better than tearing up the edge of the fender. Now, that's a whole lot better. So, one more spot right here. This is really doing I would definitely do this before painting the car. After painting it, you destroy the finish, no doubt about it. I don't think I'd be brave enough to try to do this, but this is all that prep work prior to paint. That's what makes the difference between a nice paint job and a very nice paint job. It doesn't really cost you a whole lot, just a little bit of time here. Okay. I might have went too far with that, just a little bit. Oh, much better, much better. Let me show you. Let me show you the progress here, what we've got so far. Check out that now between that fender and the door. Almost on the exact same plane there. I think that's going to work real nice. Now, the bottom part, same thing. We got a little bit of work in there. See the leading edge of the door? I've got more of a gap. I'm trying to get the camera in here. Between the door and the fender. So I'll do the same thing down here on the bottom, see if we can improve that too. I did the same thing down here at the bottom. Use the old paint stir stick here in the pry bar. Definitely got to dial it in a whole lot closer. Because the idea when I get these things all back together, I like that reflection, the transition between the fender, the door, and the quarter panel, for that reflection to be on the same plane and not fill it full of body filler to make that happen. I will have to use some body filler. There's a time and a place, but as little as possible is where I like to be with this stuff, because the least amount of material, paint, body filler, high build primer you put on the side of this car, the less chances of chipping, because I drive them. I put the miles on them. That thing's got war wounds, 11,000 miles on that thing, and I've got rock chips, a little chip in the glass, but I drive it. And that's what this car is going to be. It's going to be driven. So we're going to spend a little extra time dialing these things in, not sculpting the edges out of body filler and then transitioning smooth. Now, you will still see that I put a little bit in here, but we're talking about a couple sheets of paper or maybe a credit card thickness. Very, very, very little or none at all. So hope that helps you out. We got that door lined up fantastically. Got it dialed in, liking the fitment. The hood, that's a different story for a different day. She's got some marks here. I did a video on this. Actually, I put a link up here in the corner. You can check it out if you want, how to bend these repop hoods to make them fit more gooder, because they're not bad, but they do need a little persuading. So there you have a couple little tips on how to dial in your body panels a little more gooder. Now, this is probably accessible for factory. It looks actually really good here on camera. Up close, you can see it needs a little fine tuning. But again, this would be accessible to go ahead and do body work and paint it, and it would look really nice. And we have very little effort into bending these panels to get them on the same plane. Now they kind of hold true now the rest of the way. I can work on the hood, work on the rest of the car, but I just want to kind of cover a little bit of how to dial these body panels in. A lot of the Firebird stuff right here, that is the pivotal point, that upper mount there. That's going to set your fender gap for your hood, and then you're going to bring that thing forward or backwards, up and down, all at that point there. Tighten that up first, and then you pull the rest of it into place. The bottom, those bolts are loose. This thing I just kind of pushed into place and snugged up the bottom. That's how easy it is. So really, I guess you'd say a starting point with kind of quick review. Quarter panels can't do nothing with. Get the door on and the fender on and kind of unconditioned. Get the hood on, and as soon as it's good, so hood is good, then come back like we did here. Pull that fender door out to match the fender, and then we pulled the fender back to match the door and snugged it up, and then we fine-tuned it with a little pry bar and a little stir stick. And I'll tell you, we've got this thing really super close that, like I said, even if I were to just do the body work on it right now, this car would look like factory or just a little bit better at this point. We're going to go just a little further because that's what we do here. I like to go extra details on these cars and really kind of try to make them set apart. Now, that adds a little bit of welding and stuff to the edge of the door, but I think it's acceptable, and it's not that bad on this car. These door gaps are phenomenal for reproduction panels. Now, this is an original 1969 fender. I actually stumbled upon these, have little minor rust holes to repair. I don't think that's too complicated to take care of, but I got a good deal on those and really felt that was the way to go with this car. So now I've got some things coming up. So you should, I guess if you stuck around the end of the video, thank you, and you're going to be pleasantly surprised, hopefully. But check this picture out right here. Now, of course, anybody knows exactly what this is. That's the stacked gauge set available on any 1969 Firebird. They've been obsolete for quite some time. You can find a good set for sale every once in a great while on Bookface Marketplace, and that turns into about $3,000 to $5,000. and they're 50 years old, and you hope to God they work. That's a little steep for my likes, but there's a couple fellows now working on making reproductions, and I will be getting a set of them as soon as they're completed, and we're going to test them out here on the Mockingbird, and they will be for sale, so keep that in mind. So one of the things that we come up here pretty soon, I hope, and then once that all works out, I'll set you up with a link if you'd like to buy yours also just the same. So there's a little teaser what's to come. And if you look down inside the car, well, you see there I've got the sound deadener and ceramic coating all put in there for the temperature and heat. Temperature and sound, that's all taken care of. I can put a link to a video. I did that on the Mockingbird. I've done it to all my cars. I really like that. This is lizard skin brand stuff. I didn't do a video this go around because I just didn't really feel like it. I was in the zone one evening and I just felt like knocking it out, so I did. But anyway, I've rambled on enough. I'm gonna keep working on setting the rest of the body panels up, kind of the same idea. Slowly work them. You can use that pry bar technique anywhere on the body panels. And I've actually used pieces of wood and a big hammer. Same thing, you check my video history. I got all kinds of stuff on lining body panels up. But this video had that extra little thing that I've been doing here recently, taking that pry bar and the paint stir stick. I absolutely kind of really love it. Really pulls that edge in just a little bit because you can only shim it so much and the whole panel moves. You only need to move just a little bit of it. Well, this is how you can dial that in. So nonetheless, appreciate you following me on the journey, and thank you for watching, and I will definitely grab the camera, keep bringing some more stuff your way on the Mockingbird, and hope to see you all then.